What is up, guys? The doctor, he's back in the office, and today I'm going to be reacting to the UFC White House card being fully announced at UFC 326. Actually, not just known as the UFC White House card, the UFC Freedom Fights 250, Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. Before I, get into all of these badass fights, nobody is calling it the UFC Freedom Fights 250. I want to know who the fuck is calling it that and who came up with that name. I also know that it's known as the UFC White House card. Why couldn't we have just kept it as that? UFC Freedom Fights 250 has to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Dana White fucking came up with that stupid ass name. But whatever, I'll say this about this card. Ilia versus Justin Gaethje. I think that's a solid matchup. I think honestly Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane should be the main event because I think Justin Gaethje literally has no chance whatsoever against Ilia Topuria, and I think it's not a great look to have a American just getting slept out in front of all of these politicians against a guy in Ilia Topuria who's just an absolute beast. Pereira, he lives in America pretty much full time, and to knock out Ciryl Gane, he's an American hero in my mind. O'Malley versus Zahabi. Oh, we should have got O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen. Mauricio Ruffy versus Michael Chandler. That's a fucking funny-ass matchup. Bo Nickal, government-mandated Bo Nickal appearance on a main card. You knew this was going to fucking happen. And then Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia, which is one of those more out-of-left-field kind of matchups because all the other fights on here, I mean, Bo Nickal versus Kyle Daukaus, nobody was really talking about. But you knew Bo Nickal was going to end up on this card one way or another. I did not expect Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia. But let me get into the first matchup of Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia because low-key, this honestly could be like the best fight on the card in my opinion. Steve Garcia, this guy was boys with Charlie Kirk, so this means a lot to him. Now, one thing that I think could maybe throw Steve Garcia off is that, Diego Lopes has that tick with his neck, and we all know what happened to Charlie Kirk. So that could throw Steve Garcia off. Steve Garcia is honestly one of my favorite featherweights. This guy is a blockhead. He's going to go in there and just swing and bang with you. Had a dominant finish over David Obamna in his last fight in the Apex. Guy's an absolute beast, and he's got to go up against one of the greatest blockheads of all time in Diego Lopes, who, listen, a lot of our stock has fallen off. Like, a lot of his stock has fallen off because of how bad his second performance against Alexander Volkanovski is, but I have to take him in this fight, and I'll tell you why. If you're just going to go in there and try and outstrike and just stand and bang with Diego Lopes, he's going to beat you. And I don't think Steve Garcia has enough, ruffles or fucking feathers in his cap to pull out that I think he's going to be able to do enough to defeat Diego Lopes. Even if you look at his wins before David Onama, like Wash, Calvin Kattar, Kyle Nelson, and I'm trying to remember who he lost to. Let's take a look. Actually, no, I don't want to fucking take a look at his Tapology page, but I'm going to take Diego Lopes to this one, probably by finish. I think this is honestly, this is one of the weirder matchups. And one other thing that I want to say, where is Yair Rodriguez? How did he not make an appearance here against Diego Lopes? That was the matchup to be made. Even Aljamain Sterling, honestly, I thought made more sense than Steve Garcia against Diego Lopes. Or you could have done Aljo versus Steve Garcia. I think there were plenty of options. It's just very odd, this kind of matchmaking. But Diego Lopes staying pretty active, obviously just fought in February, and now is going to be fighting again in, what is this card? On June 14th, Flag Day, and Donald Trump's birthday. Banger of a fight. I think Diego Lopes takes this. I just think if you're going to try and beat Diego Lopes just purely striking, you're going to lose. He's hard to knock out. He hits hard. But this is going to be an absolute scrap. Moving on to Bo Nickal versus Kyle Daukaus. I'll say this about this fight. You knew Bo Nickal was going to end up on this card one way or another. And this was before we knew that this card was going to be 6 or 7 fights. Bo Nickal versus Kyle Daukaus is such a goofball matchup. I thought Bo Nickal versus Colby Covington was right there for the making in terms of guys who had kind of called each other out. Colby said he'd fight up in middleweight, and Bo Nickal, had expressed interest in that one. I'm shocked they didn't get that. To get Colby Covington in some of these press conferences, further hyping up this card would have been something fucking special, as my chair creaks a shit ton. But that would have been a great fight to have. Instead, we get Kyle Daukaus, who has good jiu-jitsu, has been on a nice run since his return to the UFC. Obviously just destroyed our boy GM3, Michel Pereira before that, and then kind of spent a little time in Cage Fury FC before, in his after his first stint in the UFC, sorry for fucking stuttering. Bo Nickal knocked out Rodolfo Vieira in his last fight. Obviously, before that, had lost to RDR and then had beat, guys like Paul Craig and fucking nobodies before that. I lean Bo Nickal in here. I don't think this is a terrible matchup for him. Kyle Daukaus, though, has some sick finishing ability since he came back to the UFC, has kind of reinvented himself. Kind of makes sense why he dropped out of his last fight against, who was he supposed to, was it Jacoby Smith? Let's take a look. Who was Kyle Daukaus supposed to fight? Vicente Luque. Why he dropped out of that fight against Vicente Luque at UFC 327, and that was replaced by big old Blabo Kelvin Gastelum. But I like this matchup for Bo Nickal. I think it's very winnable. You beat a guy who's on a nice little finish streak, has kind of, again, reinvented himself in the UFC. I just am pissed off that we fucking didn't get Bo Nickal versus Colby Covington. I lean Nickal here. But one other thing I want to say, like, how did Derrick Lewis, Kevin Holland, and then Colby Covington, how did none of those dudes end up, like, fluking their way onto this card? Like, you couldn't tell me we could have just had 8 fights, you know what I mean? Derrick Lewis, he's got to feel like he's been stabbed in the heart like Paulie Walnuts after he found out Vito was gay. Like, I just feel really terrible for him. Kevin Holland, whatever. Colby Covington, another guy. I mean, this guy loves Trump more than anybody else. How did he not get on this card? Anyway, though, moving up the card, Michael Chandler versus Mauricio Ruffy. A fight that we've all kind of speculated and wanted for a while. It's been kind of thrown out there. I think these guys were supposed to fight the UFC China main event, right? Was that just rumored, or? Yeah, it was rumored. It had never been confirmed or anything, but there was rumors that this was going to happen then. And listen, this is how the phone call went down with Dana White and Michael Chandler when he was pitching this fight. Dana calls up Mike. He's like, hey, Mike, we got a badass fight for you against the absolute savage. He's got this weird kind of karate style stance, highlight reel knockouts, one of the most dynamic strikers in the UFC. And Michael Chandler's on the other side of the phone like, yes, I'm finally getting the Conor McGregor matchup. And he goes, and Dana White goes, you're going to be facing Mauricio Ruffy. And the fucking phone goes silent and you just hear Michael Chandler scream and yell, fuck. But honestly, I do think this is a semi-winnable matchup for Michael Chandler in the sense that, like, if he can really wrestle, he could beat Mauricio Ruffy. But I think Ruffy, he has good enough takedown defense to stop Michael Chandler. And also Michael Chandler, if you don't know, I think so low of this guy now. Terrible footwork, terrible striking, not really a good grappler anymore. I think Mauricio Ruffy is going to put him on his ass and have a highlight reel knockout. And this guy, he's going to get finished. I don't think it's going to be out cold where he doesn't know where he is. But what's going to happen is Michael Chandler is going to get brutally knocked out, get up and, like, smile, shake hands with Mauricio Ruffy, the fucking Fighting Nerds coaches. And then he's going to get on the mic and be like, I love you, President Trump. Thank you. And then he's going to get out there, kiss and hug, Donald Trump. And that'll be it. Michael Chandler, he'll get knocked out in this fight. They're essentially just feeding him to the wolves. This is execution style. You wanted Conor McGregor? We're going to give you a Brazilian version. Sorry, just fucking pause there. We're going to give you a Brazilian version of Conor McGregor. Really funny matchup, though. I've wanted this for a while. Up the card to Sean O'Malley versus Aiemann Zahabi. And I'm not a fan of this. Listen, I think Sean O'Malley should get a finish here. Aiemann Zahabi's fucking cardio, kickboxing, mom style pisses me off beyond belief. I despise Aiemann Zahabi. Really, when life went to war, life and death with fucking Chito Vera in his last fight in Canada. Sean O'Malley obviously coming off a win over Song Yadong. This should be an easy win for him. And him and Tim Welch have kept talking about this fight. And it annoys me to no ends why they haven't fucking done Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen. I know Tim Welch has been, the UFC hasn't thrown it out to us. We're just taking what's offered. If Sean O'Malley really wanted to fight Corey Sandhagen, he would get that matchup. And that's the fight to make. It's the fight between the two of the best white guys in the entire UFC. Nobody wants to watch Aiemann Zahabi. Imagine Aiemann Zahabi flukes like a close split decision over Sean O'Malley. Now, obviously, they're not giving a split decision to Aiemann Zahabi if he's fighting Sean O'Malley. But imagine a world where he does beat Sean O'Malley by a decision. I think Sean should win this and should win this by knockout. I think so low of Aiemann Zahabi. I think he's the easiest guy to beat in the top 10 of the bantamweight division outside of, like, Chito Vera, who is even ranked anymore, is even 10th anymore. Is he even in the top 10? Maybe David Martinez is just after Aiemann Zahabi, but I think so low with this guy. Obviously, has that kickboxing style. What is he? He's a TriStar guy. I'm not saying he has no skill. I do think he has skill, but he's for a guy who's 30, he's a 38-year-old prospect who I just hate. And Sean O'Malley, please just, I want you to flatline Aiemann Zahabi, and I never have to be like, ooh, if Aiemann Zahabi beats somebody in the top 5, we're talking about a title shot next to him. I want to put to rest any hope for Aiemann Zahabi to ever get a title shot. Sean, please do it to us. This is going to be hopefully a round 2 finish. Yet again, I also thought Sean O'Malley could finish that Chinese blockhead Song Yadong, and he couldn't get it done. But I think he's going to get it done here against Aiemann Zahabi. Moving up, UFC Interim Heavyweight Championship, Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane. And again, I started the video off by saying this. I actually think this should be the main event. Because when you're looking at an Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje, we're going to see Justin Gaethje go to sleep, and probably brutally, if we're being honest. And I've had some internal dialogue with myself where it's like, what if Justin Gaethje flukes a KO and, you know, it's the greatest moment in American sports? It wouldn't be the great, but it would be up there. It would be up there. And I was like, you fucking stay off the weed, buddy. That's not happening. But Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane, obviously Tom Aspinall I don't think is going to fight in 2026. I would have much rather seen, you know, Pereira versus Aspinall, or even Alex Pereira versus John Jones. And funny enough that I bring up John Jones, because a lot of speculation of Dana White saying there was supposed to be a 7th fight on this card and it was canceled. Then you have John Jones essentially just crying on Instagram and live and Twitter saying he doesn't want to be alive anymore or doesn't want to be here anymore, just throwing a fucking hissy fit. And we're supposed to feel bad for John Jones because he beat his wife, cheated in the UFC, not just with steroids, but also repeated eye pokes and being a fucking bitch, stalled up a division for 3 years by not fighting Tom Aspinall, choosing to fight Stipe Miocic over fucking Tom Aspinall. He's an absolute clown. That's besides the point. So a lot of people are saying Alex Pereira versus John Jones was a possible canceled fight and Jones fell out, because there were some people saying Mick Maynard reading his lips. It's like, oh, oi, John, fuck me, or whatever the fuck Mick Maynard. Oi, John, I don't even know if that's what he said, but some people were reading his lips saying that could have been possibly a canceled fight. I'll go into 2 others that I think it is when I get to the main event. Also, another thing about John Jones, why I thought that fight was unlikely to happen, the guy has severe hip arthritis based on the guy who filmed him with the meta glasses, so I don't think that fight was really ever going to happen, but there was definitely talks about it, according to Ariel Helwani, saying that the UFC had discussed it, and that I don't know if a contract had ever been officially signed, but even though Dana White keeps fucking denying it, but whatever, we get Ciryl Gane, who gets rewarded with another chance of getting a belt despite being a repeated repeated cheater, robbing Alexander Volkov, and just overall not being that good, and literally stealing one of the possible greatest heavyweights of all time in Tom Aspinall's career away from us, because he doesn't know how to fucking not eye poke people. I think Alex Pereira wins this. Do I think there's a chance Ciryl Gane does? If Ciryl Gane happens to defeat Alex Pereira, especially knock him out, I'm going to be absolutely devastated. And that's where the leg hair waxing challenge will come back. I said, if Charles Oliveira loses to Max Holloway, I will wax all of the hair off of my legs. And again, you could start a forest fire with how much hair I have in my legs. Thank God that didn't happen. And Charles Oliveira, 50-45 Max Holloway. Go check out that video if you're still here. But Alex Pereira, I'm going to take him to finish Ciryl Gane. Again, I kind of have to get more into the intricacies of this fight, but Alex Pereira's always been a massive for any of his division. How do you make 185, man? How do you even make 205? But now he's walking around at like 240, 250. Ciryl Gane, I do think, is fast enough and athletic enough to beat Alex Pereira, and has kind of been working with a new wrestling coach in terms of maybe improving his takedown game. We've seen Alex Pereira have decent takedown defense. I don't know how it would hold up at heavyweight if Ciryl Gane's shooting in on him, but I just feel like Alex Pereira has too much power. I would love to see fucking Ciryl Gane try and eye poke this guy. Imagine the scenes of Ciryl Gane trying to go with eye poke on fucking Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira will nuke this guy's head off. That's my prediction. Just think he can, rip kicks. Just hard. I don't even fucking know. I don't even have that much analysis for this. I just think Alex Pereira is going to knock out Ciryl Gane, and it's the right thing to do. Guy's gonna be the first ever dude to have 3 different belts in the UFC, one of them being an interim, hopefully undisputed soon if he actually ever fights Tom Aspinall, or if the belt gets fully vacated and he becomes the undisputed champion. And then moving on to the main event, Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. And before I get into this, 2 other fights that I thought could have possibly been on this card, not necessarily for the main event. Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison. Even though Kayla Harrison just had the neck surgery, I always thought that that was a possibility as a fight that could have been canceled, that could have happened on the UFC Freedom Fights 250 card. And also, I thought there was a not a slim chance. Spanish reporters had come out. I forget, this guy's connected to what's like the Spanish newscaster site, Macron, that's the French guy. Whatever, it's something with an M. And he was reporting that, Justin Gaethje didn't know. This Justin Gaethje said this himself. Justin Gaethje was told he wasn't going to be on this card on like Wednesday, and then Saturday morning rolls around and he's told, "Oh, you're going to be fighting Ilia Topuria at the White House." It had been reported that Ilia Topuria had accepted to fight Islam Makhachev at 170, and Islam said he needed more time or like couldn't do the fight in time. But it's also like, when are you fighting then if you're not fighting in June? Like July and August, is that really where I'm going to see you fucking fight? So it looked like Ilia versus Islam was the big, ball drop in terms of that was going to happen, and we didn't get it. Instead, we got Ilia versus Justin Gaethje. We get an American in the main event, albeit one where he's going to get brutally knocked out. Ilia will be back. Divorced dad Ilia, fighting for really nothing. He has no family anymore. He's going to nuke out Justin Gaethje. I don't think Justin Gaethje has a chance. Way too hittable. Again, if Justin Gaethje wins, it's automatically one of the greatest moments in American sports history. It won't happen, though. Ilia versus Islam at 170 would have been insane. All credit to Ilia. If those reports are actually true that Ilia Topuria was willing to fight at 170 against Islam Makhachev, he's got fucking balls for that, because at 155, I think he beats Islam Makhachev. But again, why would Islam, dehydrate himself to go back down to 155 when he was already having a lot of trouble making that weight, and how tough of a weight cut that was on him? Instead, you fight at 170, more your natural weight, and Ilia's moving up 2 weight classes to try and beat you, essentially, because he starts out as a featherweight. I would take Islam at 170, but in this matchup with Justin Gaethje, it'll be over within a round. Maybe 2 of Justin Gaethje somehow lucky and has fucking granite chin. Overall, though, listen, I think to a degree is a little bit lacking when you have Dana White saying this thing was going to blow the Sphere out the water, even though the Sphere card fucking sucked in hindsight. Not in hindsight, in the moment it was terrible too. So yeah, I just am like, a little bit underwhelmed by it. Like, Bo Nickal being on the card pisses me off to no end. I thought Colby Covington versus Wonderboy honestly would have been a good opener for this card, but we're not getting that. The UFC Freedom Fights 250 is one of the dumbest names I've ever heard in my entire life. Who knows? I think the visuals for this card are going to be absolutely sick. Dana White saying this card costs $60 million to put together. I figured, maybe you get like a McGregor on this card. Maybe we're paying for John Jones comes back. We'll get those real stars. Islam fights on this card, and then you get Bo Nickal versus Kyle Daukaus. I'm like, all right, that's where some of our money is going to. I get how much it costs to put up a fucking octagon on the South Lawn, but you gotta be kidding me. Like, there's no way that costs $60 million if we have Bo Nickal versus Kyle Daukaus on the South Lawn on the fucking card. We have 6 fights, but hopefully they had a 7th eventually. Overall, I guess decent. I think we'll have some great moments on this card. Hopefully all the guys I want to win. There'll definitely be some goofball Michael Chandler moments. Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia is going to be an absolute banger. And then I just hope Alex Pereira sleeps Ciryl Gane. I honestly don't care about the rest of this card, but really, decent announcement. Whatever. Hopefully it all holds through and we actually get all of these fights. Seeing Ilia and Alex Pereira on the same card, though, is actually sick. I will say that. Ilia Topuria and Alex Pereira, they're really your 2 biggest stars, and I think Islam is also in there. But Ilia and Alex Pereira are really 2 of your biggest stars. All the casuals know them, and everybody in the fucking world knows who those guys are. Those are the kind of people you want headlining those cards, and 2 of the all-time greats are going to be headlining the UFC Freedom Fights 250. That's pretty special in my eyes. Again, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you guys think of UFC Freedom Fights 250, Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje, maybe the dumbest name ever. Thank you all for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. The doctor is signing off.